Hi guys, how you doing? Let's talk about concepts of family. I used to have a very traditional concept of family. Family is your blood. It's your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your uncles, your nephews. For some people it is. For others it's most definitely not. And I'm beginning to fall into the most definitely not category. It was different 2 years ago when my father was alive, but a lot's changed in 2 years. My own younger brother stopped talking to me earlier on this year. Basically, he accused me of theft and never forgave me. Well, never apologised. Sorry, yeah. That's the word. Ooh, that was a Freudian slip. My uncle doesn't like to get involved, the only last living of my father's brothers. Another uncle, he don't want to know either. And as for my mother, up until September the 26th, we're now on the 17th of April? October. So, I used to phone her at least every other day to have a chat. She's got early stage senile dementia, but I haven't phoned her since the 26th. And she has not contacted me since. I think it's got beyond the stage of maybe early senile dementia forgetfulness. A week or so, you could think, yeah, she just forgot. But this woman still goes to work, still goes to Scrabble clubs. She still remembers all that. We've had our disagreements since Dad died. She really doesn't want to deal with the situation between myself and my younger brother. I think my father was the glue that held the family together because me and him understood each other. Now he's gone, it's fell apart. So the question is, what did I replace it with? I thought I'd replaced it with the reenactment group I was part of and Ipswich Community Hub. The former has fallen apart. The latter nearly fell apart, but now I am accepted again. And I know I have very strong allies at Ipswich Community Hub. And I have Emmaus as well, the charity that deals with homelessness and mental health problems. I volunteer there every Saturday. And I'm going to view most members of staff as my family too. And I look back and I think my own family was very dysfunctional in a lot of ways. I mean, we all know the traditional family Christmas. I mean, here in the UK, it might be different across the world. But basically, the traditional family Christmas here in the UK involves relatives gathering together, drinking, obviously, and roast dinner at about 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then everybody sits around, watches a film, plays board games. You know, to my American viewers, does this sound similar? My memories of Christmas? Especially the Christmases where my father's 3 brothers would visit. Not quite as positive. What would happen, especially if my father had 1 older brother, 2 younger. The youngest is still alive and played a major part in my growing up. He introduced me to being a geek, basically. Spectrum 48K, Tolkien posters. He was a good guy. Still is. But he just doesn't want to get involved in what's been going on. And I don't blame him for that. He's got his own family now. He's got his own life. He understands that family ain't blood, I think. And I've done enough in my life to make myself... Yeah, I'm not innocent in this. I've done enough in my life to make me a loose cannon, someone to not be trusted. Hell, I think I'm the only one of my blood family that's ever been in prison. It was only on remand, admittedly, and this was nearly 30 years ago now. But I don't think my blood family ever got over that. It became a mark of shame and a stigma, and my mental health issues also, I think. I am only... summarising from making educated guesses about what the remainder of my family thinks, because they don't tell me. I was just, from the 26th of September onwards, I was just curious as to whether my mother would contact me, and she hasn't. As I stated earlier, a week or so, that's forgivable with her mental condition. But now, she doesn't want to know. She doesn't want to deal with the complicated questions I pose. But anyway, I'm having new families. Now I'm officially volunteering down at Ipswich Community Hub again. It feels good. I have made good friends from so many different cultures there. People who were Scandinavian born, German. Hi T. Well, half German-ish. Hispanic. Hong Kong. Turkish. Indian. Afro-Caribbean. And I find that these people are far more accepting of who I am than white British working class. The most antagonism I have experienced in my life has been from British white working class people. Other cultures seem so much more accepting of people who I'll use the term neurodivergent. Don't much like it, but you know. Or even more upper class British people seem to have so much more of a expanded view of these things. So I'm not just saying it's a British thing, but it especially seems to be middle upper class Brits who have exposed and experienced other cultures. I mean, in a way, I kind of glorify in the outcast from my own what's the word I'm looking for? My own creed, my own culture. Because I was born British working class. I think my father's parents had hopes that he would make more of himself, but because of my father's conditions, because he was ADHD autistic, he would never have admitted to it, but his behaviours were very much along those lines. Leaving lights on in the house was a major thing. Oh, it's all gone dark. Yeah, I'm doing the wine run to the kitchen. Oh, there you go. There's some light. You know, This might be an exact representation of my insides because my breastbone is about there. Yeah, it's a Spinal Tap joke for those who are old enough to remember it. The barrel of wine. The jug of joy. I suppose I should really be dipping my drinking horn in there, shouldn't I? But I'll be honest. What? I've gone dark. I'm not feeling the Viking thing as much as I used to. Because that this year hasn't worked out for me. I'm hoping it will in future. Well, you can see the fake bearded Danax on the behind me there. Oh, there it is. Look, that's just plastic and cardboard. Before I ran out of money, I was planning to have one made by a local metalworks firm. But that didn't happen, and since I've been no longer in an active reenactment group, what's the point? Oh, this is very random again, isn't it? Well, I know quite a few people like the fact that my videos are random. Okay, right, here's a thing. Let's go on to the more positive notes. To the followers of my channel here, if I was to organise myself to do videos about the local history of places I've lived, Needham Market, Ipswich, Colchester, mainly. I've briefly lived in other places. Would this be something that you would like to watch? Several of my friends have said that I should do something like that. Oh, by the way, shout out here. Check out the channel This Is Ipswich. It is interviews with local artists, characters, musicians that we have here in Ipswich. Run by my good friend and loyal supporter, Sarah, known as Tiki. She's an Ipswich Community Hub regular. Girl's going places. Because unlike me, she actually has organisational skills. That's probably the German heritage. I'm allowed to get away with jokes like that because I do that in person with her, so, you know. Her channel is really good and informative. She's also done some history talks on there herself. Including a place where one of Henry VIII's wives, I forget offhand which one, down Shotley, further down the river, a manor where she spent an awful lot of time, and allegedly where her heart was buried in the local church. They found a heart-shaped box. I did that one today when we were talking about it. And maybe her heart was in there. I am passionate about history. I want to know if you guys would like to see more of that on this channel. Now, it would take me a bit of an effort to be organised about it. Well, I could do an entire history thing off the top of my head, actually, so not necessarily about Ipswich itself. Did you know Ipswich had a royal wedding? Edward I, the villain of Braveheart, Edward Longshanks, who actually was possibly one of the greatest kings of that era, because not only was he a superb strategist, he was politically very deft. He was ruthless, but to be a king, you had to be ruthless, or you didn't survive. And I have a book called A Great and Terrible King. I forget the author. About his life, and man, he had a tough life. His father was not a very good king. And his early life, he spent time as a hostage. Put it this way, in a way, because I'm a huge fan of medieval Japanese history. He exhibited shades of at least two of the major three characters in Japanese medieval history. He had the ruthlessness of Oda Nobunaga and the diplomatic and strategic acumen of Ieyasu Tokugawa. And he also had luck on his side. I remember one tale told was that he basically, as a young man, escaped being a hostage at a castle by going out hunting, because this was allowed, and riding the horses of all his basically prison wardens to see which one was the best. And he'd ridden them all by the time he made his choice. And then, because all the other horses were blown and this one wasn't, he rode off and they couldn't catch him. Which was a stroke of genius. He survived an assassination attempt in the Middle East when on crusade before he was king, allegedly by a member of the Hashishim. To those of us who play Vampire the Masquerade occasionally, the Assamites, basically. The legendary Arabian assassins whose fortress was Alamut. He also, at one point, survived the collapse of a tower in which, pardon me, I believe he broke his leg. Pardon me. So yeah, he's one of the characters from history who I admire. Ooh, Mel Gibson really did him a bad one in Braveheart, didn't he? And by the way, while we're on the subject, I will say a few things about Braveheart the movie. Right. William Wallace and Robert the Bruce never met. The French princess, played by Sophie Marceau, wonderful actress, was 12 at the time when William Wallace was allegedly had an affair with her. Now, it's true about Edward I's son. He had, at the time, what were considered questionable tastes in lovers. That's true. As I said, at the time, modern sensibilities, it would have been fine, but not then. Oh, gods, this leads me into another thing. I hate it when they put modern sensibilities into things set in different historical eras, or indeed in fantasy that is set in a certain historical light. It bugs me massively. Rings of Power would be a good thing to talk about here. But I've talked about that enough, and I've been nearly going on for nearly half an hour now. But yeah, back to the initial point. Family, I think, isn't blood, it's where you find it. Never be deceived or fooled into thinking just because someone's your blood family, they're there for you, because a lot of the time they're not. They're human beings. They have their own ambitions, their own desires, their own agendas. Never think you owe them anything. Family is the people you meet that stick by you. I mean, yeah, there's a certain woman from long before I met Michelle, my current partner, who I still admire and I'm very fond of, who's always been there for me. We dated 30 years ago. 25 years ago, maybe. And the bond we formed is still there to this day. I still have a bond with a young lady whom I dated in the 1990s. She now has a husband and a family, but she's still there for me. You know. We may have parted, and I have this bond with a lot of ex-girlfriends. We may have parted, but there were reasons for the parting, but yet we're still fond of each other. I mean, don't get me wrong, before I met Michelle, I was a male whore. Serial monogamist. But many of these people I still have contact with. Because they, even though I didn't at the time, they were wise enough to realise that underneath there's a good person. And I love that person. But he's far too damaged at the moment. Ugh, difficult thing to admit. But this is one of the reasons I do this channel. Because men need to start to be more open about their mental health. What they're feeling and thinking. My father certainly didn't do that. He did it with me on a couple of occasions. And it let me know him. Guilt, rage and shame drove my father a lot of the time. As it does me. But we all have our crosses to bear. In my case, it's a fucking monolith, but yeah. All you can do is live, trying to take your opportunities where you can, and don't harm others unless you absolutely have to. Peace.